everybody. I hope you are doing well in these exciting times. Welcome to the FF Virtual Arena. Now, today, we're going to be taking a look at the latest report from Mobiquity. This is, of course, the Digital Banking Feature Radar report. And we are joined by none other than Pieter-Jan van der Ven, the VP of Global Digital Banking at Mobiquity. Peter, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. How are you doing today? Whereabouts in the world are you?
I'm joining from our office in Amsterdam. So thank you for having me today.
Not at all. Well, first of all, I gather there's been an exciting piece of research that's been conducted. Why did you choose to conduct this research, and were there any sort of specific variables that you had in mind? So just to give us a bit of an overview of this.
Yeah, of course. You know, at Mobiquity, we design, we build, and we market digital banks. So a lot of questions that we get from our clients is, how should my roadmap look like, right? What are the features that I need to bring to my customers? And we felt that there was a lot of commonalities in those roadmaps. So we said, why not, start research and build something that actually can help answering these questions immediately, but also gives us insight in helping our clients to the next level. So that's why we decided to look at 80 plus banks across the globe. We looked at their mobile banking apps and looked at the features they provide to their clients. And we specifically looked at, let's say, the customer facing features, not at the back end or employee features to give us a good, let's say, insight in what are actually the commonalities that we see there. We found out that about 80% of the features that are brought to customers are common, which is in principle a very good thing, because if you know that, you can leverage that in your roadmap. You can also, let's say, make sure that you spend most of your budget towards the part where you could actually make the difference. And this report gives a very good, let's say, foundation to get those insights and to put them into practice.
Was this almost entirely focused on consumer banking, or was there any sort of SME elements in there as well?
No, this one was focused on retail banking. We are planning to extend the research. It's one of the best downloaded reports we have ever made. So we will definitely expand it to other business lines too. But this one was specifically focused on retail consumer banking.
Fantastic, excellent. The research suggests that digital is destroying bank brands. How has the introduction of digital banking changed the role of the banks?
Yeah, indeed. Digital is destroying banks is something we always say, and that is because what we see, there is an explosion of digital touch points, not just for banks, but basically for any brand. For banks, people don't walk into a branch anymore, so it's hard sometimes to control the consistency of the brand experience. There is the web, there is the app. That's something you control yourself, but there is also channels that are more difficult to control. The social channels, influencers that talk about you. So that makes it hard to provide that consistent experience for brands, and that also goes for banks. And there's another thing here, and that also is going to answer your question. As humans, we are programmed to always compare what we see. That brought us where we are as human being and as society, which also means that it's not just products that people compare at bank, but also the customer experience they have. Those consumers that are in the banking app, they are also daily on Google and Facebook, where they get these great experiences, of course. So, which means that banks don't only compete on products, but they also have these experience competitors, which is the big tech, which they also have to take into account, because we even had research that says that about 40% of clients will walk away if they don't get the digital experience they expect from their clients. So that really also changed the role for digital banks, that they have to focus not only on providing great product, but also providing great experience, plus experience that is expected from the brand. So it really depends on who you are as a bank, on how can you leverage that experience and where can you be different.
100%. I mean, we hear a lot about how the main traditional banks are almost becoming the dumb pipes. It's one of those things that's it's a bit of a bingo card now at various conferences to hear that. But there's a lot of that actually happening. It's not just the restricted to the incumbents. Even on the neo side, there is a danger of them becoming the dumb pipes, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I've had it when yesterday I sent out an email and an Outlook says to me, hey, didn't you forget your attachment, for instance? When I step out of an Uber in Amsterdam, it will tell me, be careful, there's a bicycle lane next to you, just before I get out. It's these things, right? It is those apps and the big techs that really think with you, and that is the, let's say, the benchmark for experience, which is extremely important for both the incumbents, but also for the neos. And of course, traditionally, the neos are more focused on these type of things, but it also makes it hard for the incumbents to catch up with their, you know, the legacy challenges that they have in their landscape.
I actually had the other day. I'm a massive advocate of Curve, and they've even got a feature on there where if your card is blocked or if you hit the limit for whatever reason, it has anti-embarrassment mode, where it then goes to your kind of your backup card. And it's those little things that on the digital side are just you can't really do if you're the dumb pipes, if you're that kind of back end bank.
Correct. No, it's these type of experience in these that continuously raise the bar. And so it's not just, you know, if you try to catch up, there will be new experiences. So it's a continuous challenge, of course, for many banks.
On that note, it does seem that a lot of banks, there's a lot of similar products and capabilities. A lot of kind of fast following and I call it Me Too products, where, you know, Monzo, for example, put a gambling block on. A month later, Barclays would almost literally copy paste the same style of product. Mm-hmm. Is there a perceived risk to experimentation for these banks?
Yeah, I think it ties into what I was just saying, that the bar is continually raising, right? It's a world of competition, so you just have to make sure that you're different. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to, let's say, copy what the others have. You need to deliver something that is in line with, you know, remember the digital is destroying brands. It's important to deliver in line with who you are. What is your brand promise? And of course, banks that are in the neo space and that really focus on the tech savvy millennials, they have to make sure that they continuously catch up. But for the incumbents, it's important to have those daily essentials first, right? Every bank has, as every retail bank, you need to log in. You have your dashboard, you have your overviews where you can see your accounts, your balances, you can see your transactions, you can do your transactions, the cards and everything around it, changing your personal details. Those are the essentials. But it's for many banks already hard enough to provide these essentials with the experience that is expected these days. So it's sometimes even hard to focus on innovation. But there's also many of those incumbents that actually say, well, I don't need to be the front runner of innovation because that's not who I am, right? I am let's say the trustworthy, stable bank that has a very secure infrastructure, for instance. So there is many ways to differentiate and to choose your specific target segment and be really good at that.
On that note, do you think banks and financial institutions have enough in their budget to execute brand-defining transformations?
It's not a matter of how big your budget is. It is about spending it wisely. And then I also come back to the research. If you see that about 80% of the features that are brought to customers in general is common, why not use that? You know, we say to our clients, of course, you're very special, but you're not that different. So leverage the fact that essentials, that foundational scope that everybody has. You know, try not to spend too much of the budget on that, but spend it on the 20% where you can actually differentiate. And what we see is that banks sometimes still feel very special. So they really push their own requirements through their software vendors already for that foundational scope. While if you choose to trust your vendors and leverage what is actually already in that software, you have to realize that if you go with customer engagement platform or with the next generation core banking, these parties, they have built many banks across the globe. And a lot of those commonalities are embedded in the software that they provide. So leverage that, you know, go for that initial out of the box approach of those features that everybody has, and you can really deliver it, but you need to trust your vendors. You need to tailor your own requirements to what is actually there instead of the other way around. So if you customize something, customize your own requirements and don't try to customize everything in your IT landscapes, because then you can have a very efficient foundational scope first, which leave budget to go for the real differentiation, and then you can go into the typical ideation process, do proper customer research, fully understand who you are, what your brand promise is, and find your space to actually differentiate. So again, it's not, of course, you need a certain budget, but spending it wisely is even more important here.
No, I think combined with what we're talking about in terms of different products and capabilities, 100% agree with you. There's the baseline that banks need to deliver, and money and people's accounts are such an emotive thing that if it's working 99.99999% of the time, not good enough. It needs to be working 100% of the time, and there's very little margin for error, and that obviously takes up a lot of people's budget, to put it mildly, to then leave for experimentation, again, brand defining transformations. On that note, what are some of the digital features that are best suited for the current retail consumer behavior?
This is actually this is something. The answer is it depends again, right? It depends on who you are. Those essentials you need anyway, right? The report that we have released, it has 3 categories. It's the must-haves. Those are, let's say, the features that everybody has, and people will walk away if you don't have them. So that's focused on retention. Then we have 2 other categories, which we call the delighters. Those are, let's say, the already differentiating features, but there might be more banks that also have it. So those are, let's say, the first plus, and there is the real differentiators that really allow banks to compete. Right, and those differentiators, those again need to be in line with who you are. If you are a family bank, it's something completely different than if you are focusing on the tech-savvy millennials. There's also banks focusing on sustainability, for instance. For one of our clients, we have also delivered, for instance, features that allow to show customers their carbon footprint based on the transactions that they have. And if it's in line with who you are and what you stand for, that makes it different. So there's no simple answers. This is what consumers need. What they need are those must-haves, right? That category, those basics are there. And also the must-haves, continuously the bar goes up. But this is the second time we have released the report, and we see some features that were earlier in delighters now go to must-haves, because that's what you were referring to earlier. Everybody looks at the competition. So the must-haves will continuously grow, of course. The differentiators are tailored to who are you as a bank, and that's where you can make the difference and make an impact.
Brilliant, excellent. What are some of the notable differentiators that you've seen out there?
Yeah, there are some again, what is really great, if I see differentiators that are in line with who you are. We see some let's say South Korean bank, Kakao Bank, that has this gamified savings, where you have a 26-week challenge, and every week, if you save more than the week before, you get higher interest rates, for instance, which is really in line with who they are. And another example, actually also in the savings space, is an Australian bank called Up. They really also focus on the younger people, but they stand for we are there for you, financial, let's say, education, spend your money wisely. So they have a feature that's actually the anti-buy now, pay later. So you browse somewhere, you want to buy something, you share actually what you want to browse with the app. The app will recognize what it is, and it will make a plan for you to save for it first and then buy it, which again is really in line with what they stand for. And those are, for me, those are really interesting differentiators.
I think as you mentioned, it is about making sure the differentiators are aligned with your values and who you are as a company.
Exactly.
It would kind of be nuts for, say, Triodos Bank to put forward something which is, hey, buy this oil share or a share of these oil companies. Or it would be madness for that level.
No, exactly, and it's of course it's one, and the other one is of course you need to really understand who your customers are. So we typically do extensive customer research to find out what's your client segment, what are their pains, what are the frictions they have in their daily lives, in their daily financial lives, and try to overcome that. One of the other customers we have in the Middle East called Ila Bank, it's a neobank. We also did really extensive customer research that showed us that there was a traditional way of community savings where everybody puts money in a clay pot, and every month somebody gets everything that's in the clay pot, right? So that's a traditional one, and we researched we talked to a lot of potential customers, and they told us what are the frictions that we see, and that insight gave us, let's say, the basis to design the digital version of it. So customer insights and really understanding the frictions is of course also really important, next to making sure that whatever you deliver is in line with your brand promise.
Do you think that there's certain differentiators that are put forward that are actually almost nothing to do with the product, that are almost purely around the branding of it? I'm just thinking of back when Monzo was a chat up line at one point. Having the hot coral card.
Yeah, those things. I also remember N26. I think it was with they use VR, so you can because you can choose different colors of cards, so you can actually use your app and VR to see your card on your desk before you actually order it. Then I think, okay, I don't think it adds a lot of value in terms of products, but in experience, yes, they show, hey, we are using new technology. We are a neobank, so every new technology, we will experiment with it and bring it to our app. So these are also nice examples of more experience adding to your brand gravity, actually, those kind of things. Really interesting to see. I don't think it serves a real business case, right? I don't think they sell more products because of it, but it might make the clients more loyal and more proud on being part of that bank.
It's obviously quite tricky to kind of sort of categorize what's a necessity, what's not. I was thinking of, I think, 2016, around that era. Tinkoff Bank in Russia had a promotion, but it wasn't really a promotion, where to onboard customers they needed to have a photograph of them with their ID. So they had an army of people on motorbikes to, as soon as somebody's onboarded, within 2 hours they turn up, take the photograph, do the KYC onboarding for the Russian regulator, hand over the card, and then off they go. Which there's a necessity, but also gimmicky.
Yeah. Because that's maybe one thing I would like to add there also. You have to find the right balance between what your clients want and what is technical feasible, but also what has a business case. Is it viable or not? In the end, you need to make money. That's also in the neobank space, as you know, only 5% of the neobanks actually are profitable. But on the longer term, you have to make sure that you combine these three perspectives, of course, when you build your roadmap. And of course, you can invest a little bit into the future, but in the end, you want to have a viable business, of course. So you should never forget that part also in the equation.
Let's look at the actual apps themselves. What is it that you found that customers seek the most from their digital banking apps? Must that app do everything for all people?
Yeah, on global scale, you see some super apps, of course. But when I look more into Europe, I don't see that necessity yet. So banking apps are focused on banking. Of course, you see, for instance, Revolut, also with partnering with Expedia, so that you have Revolut Stay, where you can actually also book a room or book a hotel or something like that. So we do see more and more additional services there. But if I look at the real the must-haves, again, we don't see many of these type of functionalities yet. But it's the bar is continuously raising. Everybody looks at the competition. That's where it starts, right? You look at, okay, what does the competition have? So you know what is in your region, let's say the necessities, and if that continuously changes, yeah, of course, you need to invest, and by the time you move ahead, it will become a super app, of course.
Do you think that's needed, having it there as a super app, or does that almost sort of limit people's choice, that you're onto that, the Revolut ecosystem, the WeChat ecosystem?
Yeah, needed. Again, it's the competition race, I think, that determines it. SEC, it's not needed to run your and manage your financial life, but it will attract people, of course, more and more to the app. It will create brand loyalty if you have this super app. So I completely understand that these type of companies and banks that you name are trying, of course, to move into that space. It creates loyalty and long-term retention, which in the end, of course, is very important.
Looking at the that research, of course, that's been done, it is all about banks and financial institutions adopting and attracting customers. Mm-hmm. What are some of the absolute key differentiators that you have seen from some of the work that's come out of this research, and what's worked well, but also what hasn't fared as well?
Yeah, those key differentiators. I think I've mentioned that before. Are the ones that are in line with those brand promises, right? The Australian bank app that provides the before pay instead of the after pay. Those are things that are really different. The same goes with this gamified savings to attract people continuously back every week to work on their savings goals. Those are very interesting, I think, features that are differentiating, and that we also hardly see at other banks.
On the flip side, do you think that focusing on putting forward these differentiators is almost, there's a danger you could almost sacrifice your current customer base? As an example, I had a call the other day from a very distressed old man who had received, he basically had his bank account emptied, and one of the names was a company that I own. So he got hold of my number and called me up and said, "What's happened?" Long story short, he ended up going to the bank branch, and it was one of the bank branches where it's just all automated, and one person that's kind of there to help with the automation. And they weren't able to help him. He said, "Oh, you need to get on the phone." He spent 45 minutes chucked out, and he was getting quite distressed, to the point where he called me of all people around this. And that's kind of come at the sacrifice of having that face-to-face interaction at the branch. Do you think that banks need to focus on their sort of current customers as opposed to trying to differentiate for bringing in new customers around this?
Yeah, of course, for long-term sustainability, you can't just only focus on retaining your current customer, but that's always the highest priority. Retain your customers, and second one is, of course, grow your customer base. So also here, I think you have to find the right balance. And retaining customers is also, I think, what you're referring to. It's not only digital, right? You need to make sure that there is also that support layer needed, and not just for these kind of cases, but also, we're talking financial products here. Simple products you can do completely digital, but there is definitely the more mortgages, investments, that there is more complex products that might need also, let's say, this personal touch. So having that layer to talk to actual people will always be important. And of course, the more complex the products are, the more it is needed. But that's, again, this is also where digital technology can help make the work more efficient, and also the experience better, of course.
And it gives the opportunity to free up certain individuals to focus on other things.
Exactly. You can do more with the same amount of people if you digitize and automate, also on the back office, of course.
The last thing I kind of want to bring up is the reports, 80 banks all around the world. What's next for it? Have you got a tease for us for part 2?
Yeah, no, well, it's there's quite some plans here. Of course, we want to expand to different business lines. The whole innovation in banking, of course, started with retail banking. SME banking is catching up. Wealth management, corporate banking, we also see increasing demand in terms of digitization. In the end, also those users are consumers, so they have also that experience of the big tech in their mind when they interact with their bank. So in terms of business lines, plus we're also working in making the report even more digital and more interactive as a next step. So more to come up there.
Excellent. Well, Peter-Jan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Where is best to reach out to find out more about yourself and Mobiquity?
It's of course mobiquity.com, where you can find everything. My name is on LinkedIn, so always happy to talk to people and share more details and have good content-driven discussions on this report.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I've been your host, Ali Patterson from FF News. We will see you all very soon.